It's about 28 minutes after 9. Before we call the meeting to order, and I'd like to call the January 30th Athabasca County Council meeting to order. Councillor Chamzik sends her regrets and will join us if and when she can. The first item of business is the approval of the agenda. The items that must be selected for discussion are item number 2 or 2.1, item number 4.1, 5.1, 7.1. I think 7.2 should go on, 8.2, and items number 11.1 and 11.2. Are there other items to add or delete? Councillor Minns?
Go with 5.3, 5.4, and 10.1, please.
5.3, 5.4, and 10.1K. Other items, Councillor Anderson? 5.2. Other items, Councillor Wallach.
10.1U
10.1U.
and 10.1 AA.
10.1 AA. Councillor Holland, is your hand going up?
Thank you. 10.1G.
10.1G.
Yes, please. 10.1R.
Okay, 10.1G, 10.1R.
And I'm thinking where we mentioned 5.1, 5.2, 5.3, 5.4.
All of section 5 except 5.5 seems to be on the list. Yeah.
Thank you. Oh, yeah, thank you.
Are there other items? I'll go over them again. CAO.
Mr. Chairman, if we could add one closed session item under 11.3, advice from officials land. So it'd be a land item.
Okay. 11.3, advice from officials, land. Did you remember the section on that, or do you want me to look? Oh, advice from officials is 24.
Mr. Chairman, we can add that in.
Okay, from the top, what I have is item 2.1, 4.1, 5.1, 5.2, 5.3, 5.4, 7.1, 7.2, 8.2, 10.1G, 10.1K, R, U, AA. That's it. And then 11.1, 11.2, and 11.3, with 11.3 being added, section 24, advice from officials, land. Councillor Holland.
Would this be an appropriate time to request a change in order. Well, and maybe possibly a move that 5.2 be moved to enclosed.
I don't
With-
think there's any reason for 5.2 to be moved to enclosed based on the content of the admin package. So let's handle it at that moment.
At that moment. Okay, thank you.
Counselor Minns.
Approve the agenda.
Counselor Minns has made a motion to approve the agenda as amended. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none on the question of the adoption of the agenda as amended, all those in favor? Opposed? The count is 7-1 and the motion is adopted. Four, we're gonna skip because that's Counselor Minns liaison. No, sorry, that one, I put that on 5.1. Is there anyone willing to move a motion or the recommended motion? Counselor Minns.
Excuse me, I'll move a motion to move liaison appointment discussion to the February 20th committee of the whole meeting.
Counselor Minns has made a motion to refer this a discussion on the liaison board appointments to the February 20th committee of the whole meeting. Motions for referral are non-debatable. On the question of the adoption of the motion of referring item 5.1 to the February 20th committee of the whole meeting, all those in favor? And opposed? Count is 8-0 and the motion is adopted. 5.2, the CAO, you wanted a moment?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The content in the policy includes items in red that indicate the changes to the adopted policy that we believe council directed us to include in today's package, or provide a direction as per the motion. Otherwise, the council has an adopted policy, and the red items really reflect what the refinements to the policy were needed to clarify some issues around eligibility for mileage more than anything, but there's some other language that council noted. So we put that on the floor for you to consider.
Counselor Anderson.
Thank you. I'll move to approve the revisions to policy 2009 elected officials remuneration and expenses as presented.
Okay, Counselor Anderson has made a motion, the recommended motion to approve the revisions to policy 2009. Elected officials remuneration and expenses as presented. Now, the motion is, of course, I guess as a reminder, this is in the agenda to clarify some administrative pieces on an already adopted policy that affect the function and implementation of the policy, which was unanimously approved on October 26th. So there's no changes to the substance of the policy. And in my reading of our procedural rules, the floor is open for debate on the motion and specific amendments, but not on the policy itself or the substance of the policy. That is not open for debate because we've not made a motion to reconsider the substance of that policy. So we're talking about the procedural amendments. Councillor Anderson, do you want to speak to your motion first and then we'll open the floor? Wait, last, Councillor Holland, your hand is up.
Thank you. I would like to revisit what you just said there. Being that we also have a motion from January 9th, 24, moved by Councillor Wallach to direct admin to amend the policy as discussed in closed session and presented at the next regular county council meeting for review. Therefore, this policy is, I believe, is on the floor for review. We
So
have a motion
you
on
want
the
to speak
floor.
to the motion?
Yes, we have a motion on the floor that mentions that we should follow the recommended changes to this particular policy. I personally believe there is a further change that needs to take place with regards to this policy that is up for review. And that would be to remove the per diem
Okay,
portion.
I'm sorry, I'm going to cut you off. You can speak to the amendment, but not to the substance of the policy. There has not been a 2/3 vote to open it up again. You want to speak to the amendment?
I again, I will challenge that and would
Okay,
like
so-
to have a conversation to confirm that this is on the agenda for review.
So number one, it is not on the agenda for review because the procedural bylaw is clear that there has to be a 2/3 vote to discuss the substance of the policy, to add other items that would dig into the substance of the policy first require the 2/3 vote, and second, to do so today would amount to adding to the agenda after the agenda's been approved.
Well,
The
we have a prior motion to that, Reeve Hall, and it is mentioning that this is for review, so I will challenge that.
you have, and that's been noted. The role is to preserve order and decorum and preside questions of order. And with appeal or subject to an appeal. Ultimately, the bylaw says that you need a 2/3 vote to open the substance of the policy. The discussions in front of us only amount to specific amendments to the working of the policy to put into effect something that council has unanimously approved. And so, I'm sorry, Councillor Cromwell, I'm going to address this and then there's a vote on the appeal and then we'll move on. So the decision is, so that would be the decision of the chair on the interpretation of the policy. The sections of the policy that apply relate to, don't have them out in front of me, but 13, no discussion on a question that has been decided shall be allowed until a motion has been carried and requires a vote of 2/3. So the motion in front of us is about specific amendments. Councillor Holland disagrees with Councillor Holland would like to appeal the decision of the chair. And I'm trying to think how you would word the question. Those that would support. Those who would disagree with the decision of the chair, please vote in favor now. Okay, opposed? Councillor Grilic? In favor? Okay, so it's a tie and the appeal fails. It's 4-4. 5-4, sorry, 5-3. So on the question of the specific motion that's in front of us, if you'd like to speak to it, the floor remains yours, Councillor Holland. Otherwise, if you want to bring the policy back for review, I would recommend you do that through committee of the whole or another request for decision to council.
Yes, I do believe that this should come back
you
for
go.
further discussion.
Do you want to speak to the
Would like to
amendment?
put a notice of motion in play for that particular discussion to take place, especially considering that new information was provided after a unanimous vote.
That's okay. Notice a motion to bring this back. Okay, anyone wanting to speak to the motion? Seeing none, Councillor Cromwell, floor is yours.
Thank you. I was just looking for some clarification while you and Councillor Holland were talking. Because I do see in CC 2430 that it was as written and presented to the next county council meeting for
Sorry,
review.
this is an issue that's.
I'm
been
asking for
decided.
clarification, Reeve. What does it mean then by review, sir, if we are not able to review it?
It
I'm
has
just
been
asking for
reviewed.
clarification in the wording as written.
We're reviewing the amendments and that's what's in front of you on the motion. So further discussion related to the motion. Admin basically asked for some clarification. Councillor Anderson, do you want a final word and then we'll call a question? Nope. On the question of the adoption of the motion to approve the revisions to 2009 elected officials remuneration expenses as presented, all those in favor? Opposed? The count is 5-3. The motion is adopted. Item number 5.3, residential driveway snow plowing. Councillor Mins, you asked for this one.
Yes, I'd like to move the recommended motion. Policies 3200, 3200A be rescinded effective July 1st, 2024, and the draft policy 3201. Residential driveway snow plowing be adopted effective July 1st, 2024.
Councillor Mins has moved that policies 3200, 3200A be rescinded effective July 1 and 2024, and that the policy 3200-01 residential driveway snow plowing be adopted effective July 1, 2024. Councillor Mins, do you want to open the discussion or?
Well, I'd just like to, sure, please, I'd just like to say thank you again to Infrastructure Director for building such a great policy. I think this policy just looks at treating everybody exactly the same. Whether, no matter what, if you want your driveway done, go ahead, pay the fee and get your driveway done. That's I think it's a great policy.
Counselor Cromwell, your hand went up.
I agree with Counselor Mims. We actually have a policy that makes sense and is easy to do. I would just. Sorry, I'm trying to think about my wording here. I'm not entirely sold on the 300, and I'm wondering if maybe we can play with that a little bit more. I would like to make an amendment of a fee of $200. I believe that is still quite fair and a little bit respectful and definitely doable.
Counselor Cromwell has moved an amendment to adjust the fee on line 3.1 to $200 from $300. Counselor Gerlich and then Kapitanek, your hands are up.
Since we are talking about July of the upcoming year, I would like to make a motion to table this for now because I'd like Councillor Chamsey to have the ability to contribute to this decision, because I think it would be relatively close when it comes to a vote. And I just think I would like everybody to be here because I do think there needs to be some amendments to it.
Counselor Chamzik does have the ability to participate. She's just not here. So it's not that it's been withheld. On the motion to table this to the next council meeting,
Sure.
all those in
Next
favor?
up.
Opposed? The motion to table fail is defeated. Counselor Kapitanek.
Yes, thank you. I think again, this
Mike,
policy,
Mike.
policy has been written excellently and it really grants the community what they primarily wish for, which is a system that excludes the need to put flags at the end of your driveway. And in all of the creativity and all of the research that the director has done, I think she's built an excellent policy for our community. I am of the school of thought that when and anytime we have a pilot project, that we can err on the side of fees and caution. And that it doesn't necessarily hurt us to take a year at a lower administration fee. Granted that a fee is necessary to make residents who are not able to access this program feel a little bit more comfortable. And I know that $300 is not a lot, neither is 100, neither is 200 in most places. It costs a lot more to get private snow plowing. But I wanted to suggest that, and I'll stay in line with my colleague's suggestion of 200. $200 for an administration fee for a brand new project, I think is more than enough. And I would urge you all to vote for that amendment. And then we can look at this again next year and the year after. The next council may need a couple of winters to even see how this program is utilized, rolled out, and if it's great. And then really what the administration costs are in the end. So my final thought would be, please vote for Councillor Cromwell's amendment. Otherwise, the policy, amazing, solid. Thank you.
Other comments? Counselor Gerlich, do you want to speak to the motion?
Yes, it seems to me when we do things, we're not really very consistent, because if you talk about a $300 fee, that's actually backward for seniors. That would have been equivalent to 12 flags. Which I think one of the worst years we had was a couple of years ago, 2021, when maybe people had their driveways done 8 times or whatever in the year. And we're basically moving those seniors to 12, the equivalent of 12, which is a step backwards. Then you start to assess, what do you receive? What does $300 buy you? in this concept. $300 would buy you 10 to 12 minutes of the greater time once a month. $340 will buy you 6 months, 6 months membership at the multiplex. $260 if you're a senior. $300 will buy you a month, 2.5 months of water and sewer if you're in the county, and 6 months if you're in the town. There's problems with the numbers, and just pulling a number out without really any, like, to me, 10 or 12 minutes a month at $50 a month is more than it needs to be. And this is, we spend money on wants freely, and when things that people need that they can't really back away from, we seem to hammer them on that. We hammer them on water, we hammer them on this stuff, and then we're free and easy with the wants. And I think $100 is certainly a more fair, reasonable number than 2 or 3. It kind of gets rid of any trifling where people say, well, yeah, it's cheaper for me to let the county do it. We're supposed to be here to service and improve and make our communities better. And that's what we should be focusing on, not dinging them for everything.
Are you? Sorry. Are you wanting to amend the motion?
Yes,
Mike?
I would amend the amendment to $100 fee.
Councillor Gerlich has made an amendment to the previously noted amendment to change the number on part 3, number 2, not number 1, from 200 down to 100. Other discussion, Councillor Holland, not had the floor.
Thank you. And I appreciate the words that are being said here this morning. At one of our prior meetings, it really struck me when my good friend Councillor Gerlach mentioned that we are spending more time on our services that are enhancements rather than our services that are needs, and we're not fairly treating our residents in that fashion. I also went one step further and started looking in the local geographic area profile, and was looking at all of the different stats that provided. And when I see that our average household after-tax income in the Athabasca area is 85,000. We're looking at a scenario here where I'm hearing more and more about the struggles that people are having than the lack of struggle. So there are more struggles in our community. We are supposed to be looking at a 2030 average of 25% of our population being 65 plus. So I fully agree that $100 is more than fair, especially if we're considering this as a pilot project. I think that we definitely need to be looking after our community in a way that everyone has the ability to be able to take part in the services that we offer. And so I agree wholeheartedly, and I want to thank you for your words and bringing us that reminder that we have slipped away from. So thank you very much.
Other comments from the floor, Councillor Wallach, Minns, Anderson. You move the motion, I can leave you to, actually, Councillor Minns, I'll let you conclude.
Okay.
Unless you want to speak to the amendments.
I'll speak to the amendments. I guess, again, with my background of administering a snow plowing policy, I've been through where we done it for free to where we finally implemented a flag system, where we finally implemented a flag system for the seniors. And I watched councils beat this to living death back and forth, and now I'm actually in the loop of actually making a completely new policy, which is great. Actually treating everybody fair, and doesn't matter where your stature is in Athabasca County. We will we will do this service for a certain amount of money. So it costs money to run this equipment up and down the road. It costs money to do this stuff. If you go and you actually get your driveways done by a private company, it'll be substantially more and that. So we are actually subsidizing this service. It's not like we're not helping people. So my thoughts was 300. I was willing to only drop to 250, but I will not drop below. I will not vote below 200. There's no way. I won't vote for it. It's still a service that it actually costs money to actually provide. So it's yeah, I would stay with the 200. I won't go below 200.
Counselor Anderson?
Thank you. I'm also in favor of the $300 fee. I think I look at it as a service fee, not an administrative fee. It's helping to cover the cost of providing the service. And for that reason, I think the $300 is quite reasonable. And I also want to note that the policy is worded in such a way that there's no penalty fee for those who decide to opt in later in the year. And for that reason, that also solidifies my position that $300 was the right number, because you can get 6 or sometimes 7, 8 months worth of service for $300. That's an incredible deal, and it's definitely being subsidized already. And not to mention, we've also made it more convenient by not requiring the flags and not requiring multiple trips to town throughout the winter. So I think that $300 is the way to go.
Counselor Wallach, did you want to speak to it? So I mean, on the main motion, I like many of you think this solves the problem we're really trying to solve, which at the beginning was around flags and fair treatment of our ratepayers. And so I really like that it treats all ratepayers equally. And, you know, in doing that, I think it does help us to serve our community and members of the county universally and fairly, regardless of where you live and what your access is. And for me, I'm, you know, reminded that this is not a seniors snow plowing program, but a residents snow plowing program. And you know, I applaud a policy that's simple, universal, clear in its provision of service, and it treats everyone equitably, regardless of your economic standing. And so, you know, having regard for what some colleagues have said, my preference is the $300, but because even at $300, it's less than a single payment on the equipment that you would need to purchase if you're going to clear your own driveway. I can be convinced to compromise to the $200 rate, but 100 seems unreasonably low, given what we're deploying here, and that at some degree we are still competing with private service that could do some of this work on driveways. So for me, I oppose the second amendment, but would be willing to support the first and the main motion. Everybody's spoken to the amendments. Let's call the questions on the amendments. You've spoken to the amendment, I think, Councillor Holland.
Yes, I would like a point of clarification. If I heard correctly, Councillor Anderson, did you say 7 to 8 month service for snow plowing? Did I hear that correctly? I would certainly like to get some more information on that, because I don't believe we have winter 7 to 8 months here.
Well, it's October 1st to April is the policy. Councillor, okay, on the first question, Councillor Minns, you can have a final word on the adoption of the motion. On the question of the adoption of the amendment to change Part 3, Number 2, or II, from down to a number of $100. All those in favor? 3, 4, and opposed? The amendment is defeated. The count is 4 and 4. On the question of the adoption of the amendment to change Part 3, II, from $300 to $200, all those in favor? How are you voting, Joe? Opposed? The count is 7-1 and the amendment is adopted. Councillor Mins, everybody's spoken to the motion, but as the mover, you get the final word. Do you want to take it?
I guess, again, thank you for the policy. We get rid of the flags. Everybody gets treated fairly. It's a great policy.
On the question of the adoption of the motion to the policies 3200 and 3200A be rescinded effective July 1 and the draft policy 3201 residential driveway snow plowing be adopted effective July 1 with the single amendment that part 3 II, the word 300 be replaced with 200. All those in favor? Opposed? The count is 8-0 and the motion is adopted. Next on business is 5.4, policy 3405. Councillor Mins, you asked to speak to this.
I would like to move the recommended motion that policies 3406, 3408 be rescinded and draft policy 3405 dust control program be adopted.
Councillor Mins has moved that policies 3406 and 3408 be rescinded and the draft policy 3405 dust control program be adopted. Do you want to open the discussion?
I guess, yeah, I'll open it up by stating that, again, another great policy as far as I can see. It's really narrows it down into a 2-pager. That's perfect. And the other thing is due to the timelines, I think we need to get this so we can get it into the paper itself. So people know what's happening there. So I really again like this policy and thank you.
Councillor Holland, your hand was up first. Do you want to speak?
Yes, last meeting when we discussed this, we talked about the cost, 50/50 cost share program. And it was described that the cost share would be only for the dust control product itself.
Director Riley, do you want to respond to that?
Through the chair to Councillor Holland, yes, I can give you the numbers that it would have been for last year. We don't get our new numbers from the provider until March 1st. For 2,200 liters, per 200 meter section, it's approximately 18 cents per liter, which would come to $386 total, which we would then divide cost sharing wise. So last year, if this policy was in place, it would have been $198 for each application.
No, and I appreciate that. Thank you very much. So my only concern is because it's not specified in the policy where we understood it, that I'm also concerned that when the public reads this, it's not clear. So I was just wondering if we could make an amendment just to add a definition of dust control application means dust control product and excludes road preparation.
Councillor Holland has made an amendment to add a definition for, can you say that out one more time slowly?
Dust control application means dust control product only and excludes road preparation.
Dust control product means dust control product only and excludes road preparation. Do you want to speak to the amendment? Beyond that?
If I may.
Mhm.
It's just with regards to, I know we discussed as well, the importance of having a very concise policy. I really like the policy as well. And I think it's very well done. My only concern, of course, is that under the MGA, we're supposed to ensure safe and viable neighborhoods. And of course, I will, and then don't grin, don't shringe, but school bus stops are important to me. And when I see that there are issues in that situation, I just want to confirm that when families find that situation where their children are in harm's way in a particular area, that they are able to contact the county and the county will respond.
Director Whaley, do you have a comment?
Through the chair to Councillor Holland, anyone who calls in with concerns, of course, we will work with the school board or the family to work towards an equitable solution.
I appreciate that. Thank you so much.
Councillor Gerlich, your hand is up.
Thinking about coming up with an amendment, all of my own here. But so I don't know whether I can bring that up now or.
Yeah.
What I wanted to say is I do not like any policies that talk about handing out penalties to ratepayers. We have to do it some other way other than handing out a penalty. I don't think that we should be saying if you're not in by such and such a date, you pay a $250 penalty. I think it should be at the discretion of infrastructure. If they aren't experiencing additional costs of having to go back after they've been there already, that it should be at their discretion whether or not to levy some type of a fee. And if someone does apply late and they have to go back, well, of course, $250 probably barely covers the additional expense, but I don't like policies where we talk about handing out penalties to our ratepayers. It just gets stuck there.
Did you want to propose an amendment or are you just wanting to
I just
allude to it?
I just wanted to allude to it, just to see if there's any appetite to recognize that fact.
Well, I'm sure you're, or as we discuss around the table, we can figure that out. And then if it looks like it's well received, we can document it as an amendment, maybe. That works for you, Councillor Kapitanek.
Thank you. Again, excellent policy, concise. I do have, I guess, one question through the chair to Director Whaley. When we were discussing this policy at the committee of the whole, the wording was different, but I think it means the same thing. And I just wanted to clarify that the 200 meters is not always on either side of the driveway. So we understand that due to wind shifting and whatnot. Now, in the original right, it was like a kind of a one-off. I understood like it was like, if it cannot be 100 meters on either side, then you would talk to the landowner or the adjacent property owners to find the best place for it that everyone agrees to. And in this, it just seems that, to me, reading, sorry if I got a frog in my throat, that there's a lot of gray area and it could be put anywhere on a quarter mile on someone's property. Is that?
Through the chair to Councillor Kapitaniak. Yes, based on my impression and what I'd written down from your discussion in committee of the whole, that we should be, as infrastructure, working with each applicant to find the correct location on their property or adjacent to their property for the dust suppression that would suit them to their best needs. So it is written this way so that we are, in fact, obligated to work with the resident and not just wholeheartedly decide on our own where they want it.
Okay. Thank you. Follow up. Thank you for that. I hope that that doesn't create a lot more work for you guys, but I would like to think that our residents are going to see value in their purchasing the dust control, having that a little more say, I guess is the word, and input. So thank you for taking the time for that. Have a good.
Okay, other comments? Councillor Cromwell, Councillor Wallach,
That's right.
Councillor Gerlich.
Yeah.
You want to propose the amendment or?
No, I just want to talk some more.
We typically go around once before you get a chance to ask two, so
Yeah, but you
can
did,
I'll
you did address me. I'm forgetting what I wanted to say. I think we're trying to nail these things down just a little too much. I have absolute and complete faith in the competence of our infrastructure department. And I think they can work this out with ratepayers if they want something that's a little bit different. We don't have to include it in the policy. It's there. They're gonna make the proper decisions. I have the utmost confidence.
Councillor Anderson, Councillor Cromwell, your hands up. Councillor Cromwell, the floor is yours.
Well, I was gonna give Councillor Gerlach my time to speak, but he got it anyway. I'm very happy with the policy. I like that ratepayers can work with infrastructure, put it where they need it. It could be on a side road that directly blows into their yard versus right in front of their driveway. There's a lot of opportunity here for things to be done right, and I'm very happy with it.
Thank you. So we have the main motion and an amendment to include the dust control application, meaning that only means the product and excludes road preparation. I would speak in favor of the main motion. I mean, again, like I think most of you find it refreshing that we get down to a two-page policy that's clear, universal, fair to ratepayers, flexible enough on the location so that it actually solves the problem we're trying to solve, which sometimes we're overly prescriptive where we, 100 meters each side of the center line of the driveway or whatever. Well, for me, that would be 100 meters into the woods. So this is, I think it gets it right. It strikes the right balance. And, we've occasionally, I think, tried to solve every problem or address every exception. And I've come after a little over 2 years of sitting here with you to realize if we aren't going to get it right and perfect for everybody in every circumstance. But if we can get 95% of it tackled with what we're doing, then we've made good progress. And so, on the penalty stuff, I think sometimes that's about managing workloads for administration. There really is no penalty if you apply by the deadline, just like taxes. There's no penalty if you pay by July 30th, 25th, I can't remember. And as it relates to the amendment, to me, I would be opposed to being that prescriptive in the application because I like the idea of a policy that we don't have to touch every year. And so if administration feels, which I'm confident they'll monitor their time and hours on this, if they feel that it would be more reasonable to include a little bit of the labor for the iron that's out there doing the work and in the fees in the future, I don't think that that's an unreasonable thing. So I wouldn't want to tie their hands to restricting it to the product only. But I definitely support the policy, and I mean this is a major step forward, and I think should it pass, we should all do a congratulatory lap. Okay, in terms of those who haven't spoken, Councillor Anderson or Wallach? No. There's no closing remark on the amendment, so let's call the question on the amendment and then move to the main motion. I was reading the procedural bylaw last night. Councillor Holland, did you speak to the amendment? You made it.
I'm more speaking to the amendment. Definitely, if there is a concern, as you've just mentioned, what the definition is in this particular dust control policy, you have just shadowed the fact that there is the capability of changing up what was intentionally agreed upon. So if the definition is not in this particular policy, then the interpretation can be, as you have just shown us, can be changed. And that I am wholeheartedly against. We need to be clear. And if we need to make a change in the cost, then that comes forward. In the meantime, the policy should be clear, understood, and straightforward. And when you have just said is that we can do it either way. And I disagree with that.
On the question of the adoption of the amendment to include a definition for dust control application, meaning the product only and excluding road preparation, all those in favor? Opposed? 1, 2, 3, 4. The amendment is defeated. The count is 4-4. On the main motion, Councillor Minns, do you want a closing remark?
I guess regarding this policy, again, it's a great policy. What's ended up happening? The reason that the penalty was put in was just due to the fact that people weren't coming in on time and putting their applications in on time. We would Athabasca County be out there spraying roads, and people would be rushing into the office paying, and then we would have to come back and respray and for an organizational nightmare of back and forth. That's why that penalty was implemented. So to just, we sent letters, we sent the applications, we put it in the paper, we put it on the radio. all this stuff and it's still, there was people that got their dust control every year that were still coming in and late. So it's like, that's in a way why the implication of the penalty came in is like, if you want, and administration, I don't know if I can say this or not, but administration has always worked with people. If there was a good reason why they were late, then it, I'm 100% sure they worked with them. And now that we're just going to be charging for the actual cost of the dust control, and it's going to be a less cost, I think it even goes to even say even further that the 250 is a late penalty is another good reason to have it there, because now we have to go back. So that's why this is such a great policy.
On the question of the adoption of the motion to that policies 3406 and 3408 be rescinded and the draft policy 3405 dust control program be adopted, all those in favor? Opposed? The count is 6 and 2, and the motion is adopted. It's quarter past. Okay, 7.1. You want to
take a-
let's, why don't we come back at 25 after? It is 25 minutes after 10, and I'd like to reconvene the January 30th regular meeting of Athabasca County Council. Just as a note, we're not going to order lunch today because it seems like we're far enough ahead that we will be done. That's kind of the discussion that I had with Ms. Blair, unless anybody is wildly opposed to that idea. Even if it means pushing through a little bit and just, wind it up by 12:30 or 1, we can go eat. Is there any major opposition to that? Okay, we're good. Next item of business is 7.1 financial report. Director Chernichen, do you want to speak to any of it first before I open the floor for questions?
If I could. One important thing to note is that these numbers are prepared prior to doing our year-end adjustments and prior to receiving our final billing. So these numbers are unaudited and they will change probably quite significantly by the time that the audit is prepared, by the time we have final figures and our year-end adjustments are completed.
Okay. Let's just go around the table because everybody's probably got a few questions. So we'll start with Councillor Cromwell.
Actually, I didn't want to start with the question here yet. I was just going to move the motion so we can begin discussion.
Okay. To accept the report as information.
Please, thank
Okay.
you.
Do you have questions?
I will, but I'm not quite ready for that yet.
Councillor Gerlich, do you have questions? On the financial report? That's the first. Councillor Kapitanek, do you have questions?
Well,
Well, it's open for discussion and questions. There's been a motion to approve the financial operating report as information. Councillor Anderson?
Has the Athabasca Regional Multiplex been invoiced for their annual insurance premiums yet? I know they usually receive the invoice in November, early December, and at our January committee meeting, we were told that we hadn't received it yet. So I'm just kind of wondering.
Yep, the invoice has been sent to them. It was sent in January. It was a little late this year, but they did receive it. So even though they hadn't received their invoice, their insurance was in place. It's not that they were without insurance coverage. It was just with staff turnover.
But when they pay that bill, that'll be factored into,
Yes.
correct? Okay,
Yeah.
thank you.
An accrual adjustment back to 2023.
Yeah.
Other questions? Going around, I'm wondering, so on page 91, we talk about various things that are happening in administration. Can you just, and from administration, I guess, I'm not sure if it's Director Chernichen or the CAO. Can you give us an indication on when we would expect the salary survey to be complete? I know, council had an expectation that we would get that done for the employees that work here to make sure that we're appropriately compensating them for all the good work they do.
Mr. Chair, we expect that that draft report will be available for council review and closed session in February. So it's underway. It's going, and I understand it's being worked on between our HR manager and the consultant. So I haven't seen anything, but I understand there's no reason it shouldn't be in front of you pretty quick.
There's a comment on page 92 that speaks to software maintenance fees not been received, included is budget costs for process automations, which were not completed. I think that's, and I might be wrong in my memory, but I thought we'd had that in the last 2 budgets that we were looking for some process automations. Is there, the director, can you give us an update on why those haven't been completed yet? Like, have we not resourced them properly? Is it not a priority?
I think that was me biting off more, being overly ambitious with what I thought could be achieved with the reality of the workload.
I'm sorry, I did have a number of little notes when I went through. On the community transportation, I assume our neighbors have partners in the community transportation initiative have already been invoiced. The comment says that they have not.
We have a couple of invoices that we're waiting to come in yet before we invoice them. So they're invoiced based on the actual costs. So we just want to make sure we capture all of those actual costs before doing the invoicing.
and I think you maybe answered this last time, and I'm sorry that sometimes I have a short memory. On the road construction and maintenance, talking about the 700,000 disaster recovery funding. When is that revenue recognized sort of on a cash basis, or is it like, if it's
So
from the past?
it should have been recognized in the past, or at least accrued for in the past. It wasn't.
So then it would have a tendency to overstate where we're at year end based on.
Correct.
In the recreation, there's comments about multi-year pledges made toward the construction of the pool, which I'm sure is the pool at the multiplex. Can you share with us, I guess, kind of a couple of things? How many dollars are outstanding in pledges? And, what organizations those are outstanding to? And if that is money that is properly recognized as revenue, or would be more properly recognized as loan payments or payments on a debt outstanding?
I'd have to create a report on that.
Okay. It's
Yes,
fair to not know everything, I think probably most of us. Because I think that's information that we're not, as council, we haven't seen what's outstanding, but then on the question of, is it more reasonable to consider that a debt, or is that it doesn't make sense to me that repayment of when groups made pledges toward the building, I would assume the county drew on reserves, paid it on their behalf, they're paying it back in payments. To me, that's not a revenue adjustment, that's an asset liability adjustment, and we should be it shouldn't be recognized as revenue.
so
And I just am having trouble understanding that, because if we loan them $100,000 and they're making 4 payments of $25,000, those payments should go back into reserves, not back into general revenue.
and if an accrual was set up at the time that the pool was built, that's exactly how it would be treated. But at that point in time, there was nothing set up for those pledges. So now that the pledges are coming in and we haven't accrued for them in the past, we have to recognize them as revenue now.
So would there be any objection from council to asking the director to give us a report on what's outstanding on that type of where we've loaned money for these types of things and what we should be expecting on an annual basis? And then I guess just on the main kind of summary sheet, I wanted to confirm the numbers that you've presented to us don't include any of our reserve allocations for this year. So it's likely to be overstated both by the disaster recovery money, by the fact there's no reserve allocations, by this interest income that was unbudgeted. So it's not as good as it looks like.
It's not as good as it looks like.
I think that's enough questions for me. Councillor Wallach. I asked your question. Sorry, I'll go last next. Councillor Chamzik says pass. Councillor Holland.
Thank you. Just curious on page 92 under fire protection, when it mentions costs relating to the spring wildfires are included in general operations, subsistence and county internal charges. Are we able to obtain of a detailed report on what that wildfire total cost is, or if it's coming, if we don't have it yet?
Will that be part of the after action review, or?
Yeah, I just wasn't sure.
No, Mr. Chairman, but that's a good point. I think we should be able to bring ahead, if this council's never seen it, what we actually applied for under DRP.
And
That would be good for your information. Absolutely.
I
I'll
appreciate
tell you the status of where the grant is at.
And is it a combination of what we applied for and what we spent, or what do you? Councillor Hall?
I would like to see everything. Yeah, what it costs, what we were able to get back and what we're left with.
What we spent, what we're applying for in grants.
Yeah, if that's possible, please and thank you.
Is there any objection from council to asking for that other information? Seeing none. Other questions, Councillor Holland? The
Yes,
floor is
thank
yours.
you. I also was curious, of course, about water. Then I noticed that and I understand there are going to be, more adjustments coming, but we're currently sitting in a surplus situation there. So I'm just curious where we're at with regards to what the cost of water is going to be this year. Are we waiting until we get all of our costs in? Because of course the bylaw mentions the Water Commission rate plus cost. our cost, which was 513, is that going to be adjusted when it comes to getting that cost in, or how is that? I mean, I guess my issue here is that we're in a surplus state for water and that we're seeing so far. So looking to see where we're going with that.
Through the chair to Councillor Holland, yes, as we get the final invoices in for water, we can bring a total cost recovery and cost spent report to you.
Oh, that would be great. Yeah, I've had a few phone calls already about asking what the rate is going to be, being that the increase from the Water Commission was 15 cents a cube.
Yeah, and through the chair to Councillor Holland, we did hold the rates this year, so
They are being held
yes,
for the full year.
we have budgeted according to holding the rates for the full year.
Thank you. Just a couple other things. I was, of course, going through looking at a more what the actuals currently are, and again, page 95, one that really popped out for me is legislative, and where we're sitting at 42.5% increase currently from the 2024 budget to what the 2023 actual was. So hopefully there's quite a few adjustments in there, because if it's even at the budget, 2024 budget compared to 2023 budget is a 27.2% increase. So definitely concerns for me in a couple of areas that I think we need to tighten up on. Thank you.
Councillor Mins.
Excuse me. Actually only got one question, on 101, page 101, under road construction and maintenance. Sales of service, it looks like actually is up high. What does that contribute to? What sales of service do we look at in there?
Through the chair to Councillor Mins, that is the cost associated with the charges for currently dust control and snow plowing.
Thank you.
Councillor Holland, follow up.
Thank you. Sorry, I had one more question, and it's through the chair to Director Whaley. With regards to infrastructure, and we're looking to see quite a nice surplus in here as well. And of course, I know there's going to be some changes there. What happens to that surplus? Does it go into a general, or do we have the option to put it into a specific reserve, or how does that surplus be handled? How is that handled?
Right now, a portion of that we had budgeted to go to specific reserves. So a portion of that will go to the specific reserves. Anything left over will go to a general reserve, and we'll be bringing a reserve policy in the future where we can dedicate how those annual surpluses are allocated.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Do you have an estimate on when we might see the reserve policy?
Not by the end of the first quarter.
Councillor Gerlich and Cromwell, have the questions around the table inspired questions among yourselves? Floor is yours.
Thank you. No, most of the questions around the table were things I wanted to know. My only area of concern left would be bylaw enforcement through the chair to Director Wilkinson. When we were setting up budget, we had anticipated certain amounts of revenue per fine.
Can you give us a page number?
92.
Thank you.
And then the handout that was left on our desk here this morning. So I'm wondering if, I don't recall here, and I apologize for not bringing my budget with me. Have we changed the 2024 budget to a much reduced fine income line item? And what's the forecast for being able to meet or exceed that?
I think that what we budgeted for 2024 is more reasonable than what was budgeted for 2023.
Thank you.
And these are negative numbers, so they're actually doing better than we expected, right? Any further questions, follow-ups? Counselor Mins, financials are a pretty big part of what we do.
I'm just looking on page 91. Under administration, 2023 budget, the interest income was budgeted was 425,000. We've earned 1.4 million, which is amazing. Just wondering if what the appetite would be for possibly putting a reserve in for the new shop, possibly $1 million that we have been accredited with with the interest. Is there any appetite for putting a reserve in for?
I think for me, not because I'll say that if you don't know by now, you haven't been listening, but I favor saving for the future and planning. And, I think because we haven't absolutely decided on a new shop, I think setting aside a reserve for, the renewal of built infrastructure would make sense. So a broader category that's for buildings, because we have buildings all over the place. And so to seed a fund like that with some found money, it seems reasonable. I know we've got an asset management plan coming. I can't remember. I think our expectation is to see that somewhere in the second quarter of 2024. And that would provide us some more guidance, but to clearly, in my view, we're years behind in our savings rate for the depreciation of all the buildings we own. Plunking some money aside specifically for that future spending, I think for me is reasonable, but maybe it's a discussion we have when the reserve fund policy comes up too. Because we have time to deal with.
Yeah. Or we can make a motion right now.
We can't right now because there's no on the table.
Yeah, there's one on the table. Yeah.
But it might be reasonable to have the idea float, Counselor, and then let everybody think about it, and then we can have a more engaged discussion on, does that make sense later? I mean,
okay, yeah, no, and actually, the way you brought it across as to not just a new shop, there's new buildings that we possibly might need throughout this whole county. I think we should be looking at starting to put some money away. We've done an amazing job with our fire services. We're building reserves there. Snow plowing, all that, it's a great idea. That's how I save money. I put it in kind of like a savings account.
Did you make $1 million on your interest this year? Other questions? Seeing none, there is a motion on the floor, which is to accept the December operating report as information. On the question of the adoption of that motion, all those in favor? Opposed? The count is 9-0 and the motion is adopted. Thank you, directors, for presenting. 7.2 obviously relates to number 4.1, so we're going to have to just skip that. Item number 8.2 is calendars. That's on page 146 of your agenda. Beginning, do you want to go around the table? Councillor Mins, you want to start? And we'll work back this way.
Okay, so it's stealing a little bit of thunder on the 10.1K. March 7th, there's gonna be a let me find an email here. It's just regarding the where is it? There's gonna be a workshop on March 7th with Athabasca Watershed Council regarding the drought. Trying to come up with an emergency plan, and that it was actually, there's one tomorrow in Grand Prairie. Excuse me, but it was being being attended by so many people that they had to actually, they decided to put in here in Athabasca, and it's gonna be held at the senior center. It's already been booked and everything. There was a big push from Lac La Biche County, wanting to attend and everything, and they and other municipalities around here just regarding getting involved in this. So that's why they decided to put one in March 7th here in Athabasca.
Do you have a recommendation on, I assume you're planning to attend?
Yeah, and it's open to all of council, and
That's a huge
And-
opportunity.
yeah, and the other one would be the Water Commission, and it's open to everybody. Let me find it and I'll get back to you, but March 7th.
Other items you want to add or take off the calendar?
No.
Counselor Holland.
Thank you. On February 2nd, Friday, there is an Athabasca Landing Trail Steering Committee stakeholder meeting at 9:30, Turnaround Place. That's the name of that turnaround?
Turnabout Avenue.
Turnabout Avenue, that's the one, thank you. And on 23rd of February is a tentative Athabasca Landing Trail meeting 9:30 in Edmonton.
So that's ALT Steering Committee at Turnabout Avenue Place on the 2nd for Counselor Holland, and 23rd an ALT meeting in Edmonton. Counselor Chams.
February 9th, I have a Northern Lights executive meeting. And the 22nd is Town Library. March 11th would be FCSS, and we tentatively booked the county library meeting for the 18th, but obviously that's during RMA, and I'll have to reschedule that.
So I'm not sure if I wrote them down fast enough, but I had the Northern Lights exec on February 9th, Town Library on the 22nd of February, and FCSS on the 11th of March. Okay, Counselor Wallach.
February 26th, ASB meeting. That's it.
That in the afternoon, or is it that will conflict with your multiplex? You will be here either way. All right, I can tell you that I believe the workshop on February 13th with Doug is canceled at 9:30 a.m. I think CIO, you told me this, there was a conflict in his schedule, I believe, right?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, Mr. Legore can't make it after he told us he could, so
I'm not sure if at this point, there's a lot of value to us. Is it like, do we need to try to reschedule that, or do we feel like after the discussion we had around the performance expectations with the CIO a couple weeks ago? Do we want to rebook it? Counselor Holland, your eyes got big, but Counselor Cromwell's hand went up, so.
I would absolutely be in favor of canceling that and not taking up our time in pursuing it.
Okay, Counselor Holland, did you want to speak to it? Just your facial expression betrayed something different.
Pardon me, I was just trying to roll around in my brain exactly what would happen at that workshop to see what the value would be.
And
Yeah, I think
Just trying to think
CIO,
about that.
you and I talked. Do you want to share your thoughts at this point in time?
yeah, it's a service that
We'll come around.
your recruitment firm offers to orient the new CAO onto the job. And
Do you feel
I guess
oriented by that?
anticipating that maybe the new CAO is new to the business or doesn't get direction from council, and I feel I'm getting very clear direction from council. I
Probably in lots of different directions.
but I'm getting direction. And so I don't believe Mr. Legore is going to help with the direction.
So we'll mark that as canceled. Is there any appetite to move the county council meeting back to 9:30? Okay, so separately, Ms. Blair, do we typically vote on council meetings as a separate motion, or we just move it and then vote it with the adoption of the calendar? One motion to. Okay, Counselor Gerlich, do you want to move the county council meeting of February 13th be rescheduled for 9:30 a.m.? Okay, is there any discussion on that? Since we're all planning to be here anyway. On the question of the adoption of the motion to reschedule the February 13th council meeting from 1 p.m. to 9:30 a.m., all those in favor? Opposed, 9-0, that motion's adopted.
Sorry, February 1st, A-Red strat planning.
A-Red strat plan, February 1. Moving around, did I have any other ones? There is a meeting of the North Alberta Alliance for Growth and Opportunity, which is really the Northeast Mayors and Reeves, but for reasons of fancy marketing, they use an alternate name. That's coming up in February. I can't remember the date, but I feel like it's around the 7th. So after I attend there, I'll give you an update. Councillor,
One more. Alberta Hub meeting on March 26th, please.
Alberta Hub on March 26th. Hey, I don't have any others. Councillor Anderson.
Thank you. There's a Regional Emergency Advisory Committee meeting on February 26th. And March 11th will be the multiplex meeting.
March 11th will be the multiplex.
Thank you.
And the multiplex, is my understanding, is approved kind of the meetings for the next year outcoming, so we can provide that to Ms. Blair. We'll get you the list. Councillor Kapitanek, we're coming around the table and it's you.
February 20th to 22nd is the Join the North Conference that is attended for members of the community.
Growing the North, February 20th to the 22nd. You gotta put your microphone on
Sorry.
just because.
February 20th to 22nd, Growing the North Conference.
Perfect. Others? Councillor Gerlach, do you want to add or take anything off the calendar? On the 12th of February? Is that every second month or every month? Blue Heron on the 12th of February. Do you want to know when the March one is?
The 18th probably. Ooh, convention.
Okay, Blue Heron on the 18th of March is
No, the 11th.
the 11th.
The 11th is the second Monday. I can figure that out.
Sorry, so Councillor Gerlach mentioned Blue Heron on the 12th of February and the 11th of March. Councillor Cromwell, floor is yours.
Nothing else to
That was
add.
empty. Do you want to, let's let Councillor Cromwell wrap up and then we'll come back. Oh,
Nothing
you're
else to
good.
add. I was just gonna make that motion to change the county council, but we got that done.
Sorry. We can make sure we get Councillor Gerlach in the minutes.
Was the retention committee, did they give a new date for the retention?
Can you say that louder for us all?
Did the retention committee have a new date for March or February or March?
Mr. CAO.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. In discussion with Director Whaley, it would really help her if council would consider a special committee of the whole, even though we canceled it in March sometime with only one topic, infrastructure and bridges. So it's would be more like a workshop, just present some information. We're not asking for any decisions, but it's a huge topic. It's a huge part of our budget. And she could probably use like a whole morning just for one topic. So if there's a day that council would schedule a special committee of the whole, and it's more of a workshop type feeling.
Does anybody love Friday, March 1? We'll let the chair speak and then Councillor Crumple.
Could we schedule that the same day as MPC?
Good idea.
Okay, so proposal for the same day as MPC, Councillor Cromwell, you want to speak?
That was my proposal, the 26th after MPC.
To be here, Councillor, you won't be here, but you'll. Great. Councillor Holland? I think we have 9. Councillor Wallach, do you have any objection to us talking about infrastructure without you being here? You think you can get that meeting wrapped up at a reasonable time for a change? Oh geez, good grief, we're almost at your time.
We have a delegation and you're meeting at 11.
Yeah, so you're gonna have to work pretty fast, Councillor. Okay, sorry, getting back to, we're gonna do committee of the whole. After MPC, so why don't we make it starting at 9:45? That gives you more time than you need usually. And is there, Councillor Cromwell, you want to make a motion to approve the calendars as adopted?
So moved.
Okay, Councillor Cromwell is. Yeah.
Just
I
one
wanna move it
question.
before we.
Yeah, just one question. ASB on February 26th, for sure? Okay. Okay.
On the question of the adoption of the motion to approve the calendars for February, March as amended, all those in favor? Opposed? Seeing none, the count is 9-0. That motion is adopted. It's 4 minutes before 11. We have a delegation at 11. The plan is to hear the delegation at 11. When that's over, recess the council meeting to do the MPC meeting, which was scheduled for 11. And we'll start late. And then that was just a goof up in the timing. And then we'll reconvene the council meeting after the MPC, which I think will be fairly straightforward. So why don't we take a 4-minute break and be ready to roll at 11 with our delegation? That's a lifetime ago. Hey? It is 11 a.m. and I'd like to reconvene the January 30th meeting of Athabasca County Council. We have with us Kathy Fagnan to speak to the Boyle Cornhole League. Our normal process is we'll do introductions of the council and then we'll just work around the table when it gets to you. Then you can introduce yourself and the floor is yours. There may be questions from council afterward, and process-wise, we don't always necessarily make a decision the day of the presentation. We take it back and we'll sometimes think. So on your right, my left, we have our CAO, Mr. Bob Beck, recording secretary, Ms. Blair, communications coordinator, Mr. Schenkelberg, and Councilor Mintz.
Rob Mintz, Counselor Division 8, Baptiste Lake, Island Lake area.
Good morning and welcome. Thank you for being here. Tracy Holland, Counselor for Division 5, which is east of Athabasca, so Parkview, Amber Valley, Paxton, you betcha.
Kelly Chamzik, Division 7, Grassland, Atmore, Prospita areas.
Good morning, Camille Wallach, Division 9, north of the river.
I'm Brian Hall, elected in Division 4 and Reeve.
Good morning, Ashton Anderson. I reside in Division 3, which is the Boyle area.
Good morning, Natasha Kaptanic, Division 2, Collington, Minook, and New Pine Creek.
Good morning, Joe Gerlach, Division 1, which is the Rochester Bears.
And good morning, Gary Cromwell, the far north, completely opposite of my friend here to my left, up in the Wandering River, Brainat area. Thank you for being here today.
And now if you push the button, the red light comes on and the floor is yours.
All right. Well, I saw on the agenda there was a delegation. Well, I guess I'm the delegation, but I was approached by a fellow who wants to start the Boyle Cornhole League, who's been active in cornhole throughout the problem. I guess I should tell you who I am first, right? I'm Kathy Fion. I was Kathy Melsness, so I did grow up here, and Rob would have been just a little young fellow back then. But I lived in the city for a long time. I've worked for Alberta Health Services for 35 years, and I recently retired over to the Boyle area, but they still keep me on as now I'm a special advisor. So I guess I just give advice. But so I guess that was why I was picked by the people who want to start this league and said, well, Kathy, you can go do this presentation because you'd be so good at it. And I said, oh, well, okay, I'll go and give it a whirl. But several people in the area are always looking at what can we do in the community? What is there to do, especially in the winter? There's not a whole lot to do. Things keep closing. The hospitals kind of shut down for part of the time. The bank is going to close. It's lots of kind of depressing news. So when some of the people got on Facebook, good old social media, saying, hey, we should start something like a cornhole league, something to do in the winter. And the interest was really high. So then they were saying, okay, well, how do we get this going? What do we do? And so they said, well, let's make a presentation to county to see if we can get some startup funds to get the equipment, get the stuff that we need to get this going. So yes, so I got nominated to come over here and tell you about it. So cornhole, I don't know if people know the game. It's just what it sounds like. It's actually like a beanbag game. It's easy for everyone to play. Anyone can play at all ages, all skill levels. Doesn't take a lot of skill, but it's become such a popular thing now that there's actually a Canadian Cornhole Association. There are leagues all across Alberta where people, if they want, can play at a very serious level. So you can actually join the Canadian Cornhole Association, have your regular league scores go into a system and be participate in regional, provincial, and national kinds of levels. So it's kind of multifaceted. So we want it to be both recreational, but it can be more serious if there are people who want to play on a more serious level. So it would encompass all of that. So my reasons for being here are, I want there to be more things to do in the county of Athabasca, in the Boyle area, things people can participate in. But also with my background in healthcare, we're always trying to recruit people to come to the area. We've got staffing shortages in the hospital, in home care, in our supportive living. So we're always trying to recruit people and say, what is there to offer in our communities? What's out there? Why should I move my family to Boyle or to Athabasca or to the county? And the more things that we can have to offer, besides, there's hunting, there's fishing, there's skidooing, there's, those types of things. But what is there just for the person who sits at home and says, what can I do on these winter days to go out and do something? So the more we have to offer, the better it is to recruit people. And we can write on when we post things that we've got things like a cornhole league, we've got a pickleball team, we've got all these different kinds of things. So we want to entice people to come here when, they say, wow, why should I move to Boyle? What the heck is there in Boyle? Why do I want to come and work in the hospital there? So that's kind of my second reason, along with, hey, I love to play cornhole. We play all summer, and this would give us something to play in the winter. So the request that they've put forward is $5,000. Now, what this will purchase is all the equipment that is needed to start this. So this would buy 8 sets of the boards. So there's 2 boards for each set, plus 8 bags, plus a tablet scoring system. So this would fund 8 sets of those to be able to participate. They already have space in the community center. The town of Boyle has given a reduced rate for that activity for that. So, and we already have expressed some interest in the community. And so that's what we would like to do. And that's what we're asking for, the support of the county to help get this rolling. We also, I've done some investigating about creating a society. So down the road, we would like to have a society so we could actually get funding through grants down the road to be able to host things like provincials or regionals or even national kinds of events to bring more people into the community. So that's why I'm here. So if you have questions, I'll try to answer them.
I can open the floor for questions, but I can maybe just begin by sharing what is a tiny bit of good news, and that's that the county funds the community center jointly with the Village of Boyle. So we're already to some degree sponsoring and helping you out. Are there questions from the table? Councillor Capitani.
So I guess my main question would be, has the cornhole group approached other neighboring municipalities to Boyle, including the village?
Well, they did approach the village. The village was the first one they went to, and they said they don't support that type of thing, but they did give them a reduced rate to have the facility.
And any of the summer villages?
No, not at this point.
Councillor Wallach.
How many teams are you guys expecting or have registered?
Well, right now we have 20 people that have expressed interest in participating. And if we can get the funding to get this going, then we're not going to have to go to people to say, okay, well, to come and play, you're going to have to pay a membership to get in so that we could get this going.
20 people or 20 teams?
Well, it's 20 people that have expressed interest. So then each of those people is kind of representing someone that they want to bring to participate.
On the left, any? Councillor Cromwell.
How many people are required for a team?
Well, you can have more like bigger teams, but usually it's usually a couple, right, that will come and be a team. So you can play singles or you can play doubles, and then that would be your team, right? And then they would play each other. So in a match, there would be 2 against 2.
Okay, so that's just what I'm trying to work out here then. So how many people would you require to attend in order for you to rent that space on a given night?
Well, we're hoping to have the 20 people who have expressed interest, plus that's our starting point, right? We're going to then be able to recruit more, to enhance it, to get the word out there that, hey, this is happening. But just as a point of interest, and this was kind of news to me, there are leagues now, several around the area, and the people who have kind of started this, Paul, who was the one who brought the idea forward, travels to Fort Saskatchewan and Morinville one night a week to participate in their local leagues. So I'm expecting that there would be people from other leagues who would come to play here, because that's what's happening now. People are traveling to participate in various leagues around the area.
Thank you. One final question for you, ma'am. You mentioned that if we were able to help you with the startup cost, you will not need to charge your members to play. Is there going to be any fee for coming to play?
What there is if people want to join Cornhole Canada to get their scores entered into the system to be able to compete for regionals, provincials, and nationals, there's just a $10 fee to join Cornhole Canada. Other than that, there would be no fee. We're hoping that would be no fee, because we want to encourage people to just come and participate and not have to charge a fee.
Okay, which, thank you very much. It leads into how are you paying for the hall rental? And what happens if, happy that you get 48 people that show up and now you're drastically under equipped? What is your plan to deal with both of those scenarios?
Well, we'd be really, really happy if we had that many people. And then what we would do is because I would like to form, a society and have an actual more formal group. And then it could be a session like this where we say, okay, we've got so much interest. What do we want to do? Are people wanting to, throw in a $10 membership? Do we want to go to maybe community groups to see if other people are interested in participating and putting money into the group? So we're just starting. This is just kind of to get it off the ground, and then hopefully we can grow and expand.
I get that, and I appreciate. But again, if you're not charging membership, who's paying for the hall rental when you're going to go out and play?
Well, actually, the fellow who wants to start the league, who asked me to come here, he has paid for it. Yeah.
Perfect.
So right now it's paid for at a reduced rate from the town.
Okay, thank you.
Counselor Wallach, I cut you off.
I guess just for my information, we're starting a cornhole league too, but what are the tablets and stands used for?
They're actually a scoring system now that puts results right into like a big provincial Canadian system. So it's kind of like an iPad kind of thing. So it's like a score system. So people can just enter their scores while they're playing, and then they're kept in a statistical system.
Counselor Anderson.
Thank you. You mentioned that you're looking at creating a new society for this league. And I know Boyle has typically struggled, as many small towns do, with maintaining societies. So ensuring that there's enough people on the board and the financial costs of financial reporting and all that kind of stuff. Have you approached any other community groups in town, in the community, to see if you could join under their umbrella so that, possibly they're covering part of the insurance, they're carrying some of that burden to make it easier on you?
Yeah, not at this point. We've just talked about creating the society because we were looking at other funding options, such as grants and that type of thing. And discovered that becoming a society is the best way to get grants, because you have to be a society pretty much to get one. And they also want you to be operating for a year before you can apply. So that's where we say, oh my goodness, we better be getting to do this, because the people who I've been working with, that was a novel kind of a thing to them. So we're just at those starting phases.
Thank you.
Counselor Holland.
Thank you very much for your information that you're providing here today. And I really appreciate the fact that, there are individuals out there that are looking to expand the entertainment and the social aspect and the health equity that goes into this as well. And so I really applaud you for taking this on and looking to make something out of it. And I'm, you know, appreciative of what you're looking for and what you're looking to do. I just wanted to confirm, you know, the county also has, and we're looking at it later on in our agenda, the grants to organizations. And I don't believe you need to be a society under this. So, you know, that's an avenue, of course, that would definitely be something I would encourage you to apply for and look into and go from there. So thank you very much for bringing this forward. You know, I look forward to hearing more about it.
Councillors, Chabzik, Mins, or Gerlich? No questions? No questions? Councillor Gerlich, you could start one of these interactions.
Is this something that runs throughout the week or 1 day a week or 2 days a week or?
We're looking at starting 1 day a week. It would be during the week and we actually have put out kind of a poll to see which would be the most popular night to run it.
Yeah, and again, I think with most things, there has to be contribution from the people participating. You should have some sort of contribution to it.
Yeah, and I think that's something we would look at and then it's just, okay, what are the ongoing costs going to be? What are the initial costs going to be? And like, if we get no money, then I mean, we're going to have to go and say, okay, hey, it's going to be this much of a cost to participate. And of course, the more money you can have to start up, the less that you're going to have to charge people going forward.
Okay, thank you.
Councillor Anderson, you had a follow-up?
Thanks. So sorry, just to follow up, what are the insurance requirements for the league? Like,
That would, if, once you register with Cornhole Canada, that falls under the Cornhole Canada umbrella because you become part of their umbrella, just
As-
like a hockey association or whatever.
so you would be registered as an individual player or as a league?
Both, they actually, the players, if they put their $10 membership in, they're registered as a player. And also the league would be registered under the umbrella of Cornhole Canada.
Thank you.
I feel like we've exhausted most of the questions. I appreciate that, you know, your group is working to bring something organized and new to the community and the region and that it, you know, benefits the wider region in the east. And I want to thank you for taking the initiative to do that and coming to spend time talking to us today. So if I just for clarification, you haven't applied to the grants to groups policy?
No,
Okay. And so if something were approved today, who would we write the check to?
it would be to the Boyle Cornhole League. They have,
So you have a
Yep.
bank account already?
Yep.
And- Okay. So the process then normally is that a later point in the agenda, council either reflects on the delegation, often will ask administration to gather different information or respond, and then it comes back to a future meeting for, you know, decisions. But I would, like a colleague, really encourage you to look carefully at the grants to groups policy. That's a really good avenue and kind of the direction that council, I think, intended for the majority of funding requests is to try to fund them through there. And I think there's some category there that would align with what you're doing. So that's great.
sounds good.
Thank you for being here. We appreciate you making the trip and
Thank you.
sharing that with us and that you're taking the time to make this effort and do this.
Thank you.
Have a good day. Council, it is 20 minutes past 11. I would propose that we recess for 10 minutes for the MPC meeting and then reconvene at the conclusion of the MPC meeting. Then let's reconvene the January 30th Athabasca County Council meeting. We are now at item number 7.2. That's on page 114 of your agenda. I added this because I had a concern that I don't think admin should probably do more work when there's a process for the group to follow to apply for money. But as our convention will make a motion, we'll look for one from the floor, either the recommended one or an alternate one. Councilor Cromwell.
I'd like to make the motion just to accept for information and leave it at that. Speaking to that, I found that there were several holes that I found in the business plan, though it was a good idea, and I wish them the best of luck. I'm not convinced in the model that was displayed here that it would be sustainable how they're talking. I don't think there's more homework needing to be done and ways they can piggyback to make it happen that they are going to be unable to do coming in with their current plan.
Okay. Other comments? So Councilor Cromwell has made a motion to accept presentation for information. If no one's going to speak, I'll say that I think it's great that they're working to create something to do in the community. And I think that the county does already provide support through our funding of the community center, and that we have a process in place, and if they follow that process, there could be funding available. But I don't like the idea of trying to circumvent that policy by coming direct to council. There is a guideline in place, so I would encourage everybody to work their way through that if they're looking for money for their activities first. Check mark. Hang on. Anybody else want to speak to this one? It's straightforward. Final word, Councilor Cromwell. On the question of the adoption of the motion to accept the delegation's presentation for information, all those in favor? Opposed? Count is 9-0 and the motion is adopted. Next item of business is 10.1 G. The only thing standing between you and your lunch is number 10 and number 11. So Councilor Mins, when your turn comes. Councilor Holland, the first one's you.
Thank you. I'm almost a little bit nervous because there's a whole lot of information that has been forwarded to me that I've forwarded on to CAO, and I think he's probably a little inundating in his email there, but that information, of course, is a lot of historical information that we're trying to gather and understand what has been happening, of course, with regards to the Athabasca Landing Trail. And so a lot of that information is coming forward from Alberta TrailNet, et cetera, on previous letters of support, previous information on grants, previous information on land purchases for the parts of the trail, a disposition of license of occupation. All of this information is coming forward, and I'm trying to wade through it and understand it. Did notice that the disposition expired in September of 2021. So I believe administration is going to look at renewing that disposition, and where that is located is east of the Wilfong Bridge in the Carleton, that is on land owned by Alberta government. And so they gave us permission to have a license of occupation there for the Athabasca Landing Trail. So that has come forward, and looking into all of that information. We had a meeting on January 12th, and it was basically surrounding around the memorandums of understanding, surrounding around what the $5,000 support that the county and all the other municipalities provide, what that money is being used for, which is used for trail openings, meeting costs, field trips, signage replacement and kiosks, or if we're having a bridge opening, which is coming up, websites, the administration, to hold the committee, et cetera, that TrailNet offers their support for. So there's quite a bit of support that we're getting there. It's just a matter of the trail needs to be understood that it's still under development. So of course, all of the formalized agreements and whatnot are being worked on and more robustly being worked on now, because there is on February 2nd, there was an invitation that was sent out by Sturgeon County on behalf of the Athabasca Landing Trail Committee. And it was sent out to the stakeholders for the meeting on February 2nd. And what that primary focus of the meeting, I went to all the CAOs of the municipalities and other stakeholders who also have experience in the trails, like the Iron Horse, as well as the Legacy Trail, the rail trail and that kind of thing. So the primary focus of that meeting is to discuss potential agreements between municipalities and related stakeholders to enhance collaboration and contribute to the goals of the Athabasca Landing Trail, and to create MOUs with all engaged parties. The agenda topics so far, but not limited to, are history and potential of tourism opportunities, relationships and responsibilities, budget, et cetera, et cetera. So that should be quite a full day of having that conversation and getting those things into place. We also had documentation come forward, as we've been hearing about a staging and camping area possibility in the hamlet of Colleton. So some of that information came forward, that there was a lot of planning and whatnot that went on in 2013, 2014 that was received as being something that would go forward, but the individual who was heading it up no longer works for the county. So that kind of got left behind. So just trying to dig up all of that planning information that was already done and to see where it sits. And if there's still interest in that, of course, that would go to ARED, I'm sure, for future discussion there. I could go on and chat, but I will try and put most of this into more of a formal report that folks can read next time around. So I'll leave it at that. We've got a lot of work to do. And there is a grant as well coming up for the spring cleanup. But again, with regards to the motions that are currently in play, I'm not so sure that we're going to be able to take advantage of that this year, but it's something that I would like to look into. Being cleanup is still something that is extremely important that volunteers will do, and is limited for the county's administrative cost for that particular grant. It's up to $1,500. And so that's something that I think its deadline, I believe, is February 28th. So it's something I'll ask for if I can bring forward. That's something I definitely think we should consider and look into, as it was really successful last year as well. Like I say, I've got a whole ton, so I'll add that into a proper report next time around.
I was worried you were going to read us the binder.
Sorry?
I was worried you might read us the whole binder.
Oh, I could go there, but
You're on deck in just a moment. Again, we're gonna jump over to thank you for that. There's lots with the trails, and I think we'd had a motion about getting some presentations and then working forward on a strategy later.
Right, and that is something else that I actually asked if it's possible to do a Zoom link for some of those participants, as they're having a very difficult time scheduling, as they are being asked to go everywhere. So our local representative had no problem with a February type date, but that might be an issue with Alberta TrailNet. So looking to see if that would be an option.
I think certainly the council has had delegations via Zoom before.
Yeah, it's just for her scheduling.
Yeah, unless somebody wildly objects to that, I don't see a reason why. It works with what we normally do. Councillor Minns, you want to share Athabasca Watershed Council information?
Yes, just a quick overview again. March 7th is the meeting date. It'll be at the Athabasca Senior Center. There will be for registration would be through Everbright. And don't register. Registration will be next week. It'll come on the Everbright app or whatever. And don't take long to register, because it seems to fill up quick. So I think it'd be good for all the council, or as many people as we can get in there and discuss the drill and what we can do about it on our end. So
If it fills really fast, do you think that we should ask admin, like poll right now, who wants to attend that session? Do you have the ability to send that poster around later?
yeah, as soon as it comes out, she'll be sending posters through Alberta Athabasca Watershed Council, and then it'll be going into the website and all that. They'll be hammering it out, eh? So
And then we can have CEO, I think normally admin would register us to those events. So, I mean, you can put Counselor Mins down and at least I would like to attend that, given the severity of that. Other hands of who's interested, Councilors Cromwell, Nabatanik, Anderson, Wallach, Chamzik, Holland, basically everyone but, no, and are you coming?
Yeah.
Yeah. Apparently it's everybody. There we go. You've got 9 of 9.
I've already sent it to I've sent the information to the commission too already, commission manager. So
Ms. Blair, did you want to object to that?
Once I receive the information, I will send out an email to all of council with that information, and then you guys can just let me know.
Can
They're
you
still
just register
interested.
all 9 if it's fast? I think everybody has said they're good to go.
They've said all.
Okay,
So
sounds
just
good.
lock her down. Councilor Mins, that's abnormally short for your reports.
yeah, it's a kind of like a double whammy there, but yeah, no, it's just there. We have another meeting coming up on the 21st. I'll hate you with that later.
Councilor Holland, you want to give us a community transportation update?
Thank you. We did, the meeting that was scheduled, I believe, for January 10th. It was canceled. However, we did receive an email update on some of the things that are going on because of course, we're still looking at the Rural Transit Solution Fund. And basically the information that came forward is that their guidance from the Rural Transit Fund, people who are administrating it, was very informative. As Krista has been really, Director Wilkinson, pardon me, has been working extremely hard with this. And I applaud her efforts. We also talked about the planning and design project grants at the committee level about during the long-term plan for the service, and eligible applicants seek grants up to $50,000 in support of community projects to plan and design new or extended transit solutions to their communities. So that was something else that if kind of follows into the capital project stream as well as this particular design project stream. So looking more again into the summer villages and where that would go into maybe a feasibility study. We're looking at different things that might apply there. I would hope that we can expand that system. And also mentioned that once we have a long-term strategy for service, including capital purchases, it'll be easier, like I mentioned, to apply for the funding. So just some grant funding information that was brought forward.
And on the application for the new vehicle,
I believe the application is still set to go in, if I'm not mistaken, CAO. The Rural Transit Fund grant, that application is still going to be submitted.
I would have to check with Director Nick.
I understood that
Okay,
the application will still be there, but we're learning more and more that will enhance our chances.
super. Councilor Wallach, Farm Women's Conference.
Yeah, just a reminder, the Farm Women's is on the 8th at the multiplex. Get your tickets, they're on sale at the office here and Valley Drug Mart or online. And we're still looking for some donations for door prizing and whatnot. So yeah.
You're next. Okay, 10.1, Councilor Wallach.
Okay, so for the Regional Healthcare Retention Committee, we have good news for Boyle. They got a new doctor, started in January. She is full and not taking any new patients as of this time. So well needed. Also, the 2 international nurses have landed and they are getting settled in. There was some logistical issues with them moving here. Urban versus rural for transportation is different. So Village of Boyle has really stepped up with getting those people back and forth to work and all of the things. So Boyle has met with AHS about this program it's a pilot program. And they're working out the kinks for the next batch that's coming in. The high school skills event is gonna be start planning here in the next little while for the spring. Again, 40 students from the community, Boyle, Athabasca, and potentially Calling Lake this time, because they supply funding now. We'll have a day of events, and then a second event was talked about in the fall, just because there was so much interest for that as well, so. And, oh, the nurse practitioners, as we've seen a few months ago, the provincial government had come up with a plan to fund them. That plan is still not finalized. We have a great relationship with the Nurse Practitioners Association, and they are on our radar, and as are we. So as soon as that funding thing gets signed, we should hopefully be recruiting. Yeah.
I know last year there was questions of the skills of it. It's a partnership between AU. No, like is Northern Lakes or any of those guys going to be part of it?
So this is just a
Or just-
career opportunity, like just to see what's about there. It's not a trade show type deal.
Okay.
Yeah. AU just gave them money.
Money, okay. Questions about any of the reports? Councillor Grilick?
Not really a question about any of the reports, just sort of, as everybody's aware, the school board did pass a motion to close Rochester School at the end of 2025. And I think as a member of the community, the school board had their backs against the wall. And I think they treated the community well in bringing forth all the information. And at least now we have a conclusive answer. They did give us that extra year extension. So we now have 18 months to figure out some way, if there is some way, to preserve the school, maybe inside the system or outside of the system. And it was a very difficult situation they were in, and they didn't make it lightly or whatever. So I appreciate the way they treated the community.
Are you also intending to make a motion to accept the reports for information?
Yes.
Sorry, I mean to cut you off and end your comments was,
No, I just think we can't point the finger at the school board and like it was hurting them right to the, they didn't make it lightly and it was tough for them. And they treated the community well. And the community treated them well. It was very respectful all the way through. And we just have an answer now, and we have to see if there's some way we can, it will absolutely devastate the community to lose the school. It's, it changes the whole structure of the community. But we get 18 months and there's a solution to every problem. If you're willing to work hard enough, just find the solution.
on the question of the adoption of the motion to accept the reports for information. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor? Opposed, count is 9-0, and the motion is adopted. It is appropriate to take a motion to enter closed session. Councillor Cromwell has moved that we enter closed session. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor? Opposed, count is 9-0, and we'll take a minute to We'll take a 30-second break to let whoever's in the hallway Councillor Chamzik moved that we leave closed session. The count was 9-0 and the motion was adopted. On as it relates to item number 11.1, Councillor Cromwell, you had indicated you would be making a motion to accept the information and directed Min to bring back future updates.
So moved, Mr. Chair.
Is there any further discussion on that motion? Seeing none on the question of the adoption of the motion to accept the item for information and directed Min to bring back future updates, all those in favor? Opposed? The count is 9-0 and the motion is adopted. Councillor Anderson,
Regarding item 11.2, I'd like to make a motion to direct administration to pursue a cost recovery model when negotiating CPO service agreements.
contract service agreements.
Contract service.
So to direct administration to pursue a cost recovery model when negotiating contract CPO service agreements. Is there any further discussion on that item? Seeing none, on the question of the adoption of that motion, all those in favor? Opposed, the count is 9-0 and the motion is adopted. 11.3, Councillor Wallach had made a motion to accept the report for information. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none on the question of the adoption of accepting the report in 11.3 for information, all those in favor? The opposed? The count is 9-0 and the motion is adopted. The last remaining item is to declare the adjournment. That happens at 15 minutes past 12 today.